Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and also welcome back to day 2 of my vlogmas. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Tiffany, and if you're returning, welcome back. So today I wanted to go over 6 books that I have read that have helped me in my entrepreneurial journey, and I think they would be books that you should also read as well. So we're not going to waste too much time, but we're just going to go on ahead and jump right in. So the first one I'm sure you've heard about all over these internet streets, and that is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, with this here, I found this very helpful because when you have goals or you create goals, we sometimes create them so big or maybe so broad that we don't know how to really go in and just break them down to the simplest task that we need to do in order to make that goal a reality, to achieve our goal. And so what in this book he helps explain is it shows how to break our goals down into small, simple steps and to just begin to become 1% better at what we do it every single day. The other thing he talks about is that we don't have the systems in place to achieve our goals. So that might be if we use weight, for example, and if we want to lose weight or become healthier and gain a healthier lifestyle. Well, what does that consist of? Say you want to lose 15 pounds. So that might look like starting out with just walking 5 minutes a day, or 5 minutes three times a week. Something very simple and very easy to do, to start off small and then build upon what we've already started, so that 5 minutes 3 days a week will then become 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes, and then an hour, and then pretty soon, before you know it, you'll be walking 2 to 3 miles a day or more, depending on what your goal is. The same thing would be, and we'll use the weights system as far as if you want to eat better. So that might look like removing snacks from your diet and maybe incorporating a piece of fruit every day. Just the very small things, and we feel that we have to do something very huge and very big and monumental, but really in reality, all we need to do is something small and just become better at it, 1% better at it once a day. And even for me, I could even use for me as an example is social media. So how am I showing up on social media on a weekly basis? It's something as simple as filming a YouTube video, doing vlogmas, for example, to get better at it, would be doing a video once a week so that I can begin to build my muscle with everything that has to go on. But that also means too, figuring out a time to schedule for me to record the videos, to edit the videos, to upload and schedule the videos. And as we begin to create these systems, then the systems will begin to reinforce the habits, and before we know it, we'll be doing them on a regular basis, and it will just be a part of our regular everyday life. So number 1 is The Atomic Habits by James Clear. The next book that I have is We Should All Be Millionaires by Rodgers. Now this was a good book. In this book, she doesn't give any over the top or anything like that ideas. She gives us practical skills, practical things that we can do to help make space to create our $1 million habits. And that could be something as simple as hiring someone to come in once a month and do the cleaning for us, so that we don't have to do that and put our time to where it's most valuable, and that's what? Building our business and building our $1 million habits. She also talks about one of the exercises she used is, what would you do if you were a bad girl? And this comes into a section of the book It is one of the mistakes that we all make. And one of the mistakes is we all like to be liked. Well, we know bad girls aren't always liked because they're doing something completely different to get the result that they want or need. So what would that look like to you? And when you begin to write down all of the different things, for me, it was getting on a flight and going on vacation at a moment's notice. I don't feel like working today, so that's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to go to the island somewhere for the weekend. Just different things like that to help us begin to think different, because with becoming a millionaire and being in the entrepreneurial space, one of the biggest things we have to get over is our mindset. And we have to learn to do things differently because we're employees during the day, if you're like me. So at night, I like to call it code switch, so I can now begin to create these $1 million habits. It could be something as simple as how do I begin to save money? So that might mean $5 a day or $5 a week in order to begin to make those habits, again, from the atomic habits, bringing it into this. It's sort of the same thing. One of the other things she mentioned in the book is another mistake that we make is who we hang around, which also helps us with building our $1 million squad. Because in order to be a millionaire, I can't be around people that aren't millionaires. It's things that we've always heard, but we've never really put into practice until we're put into situations. And if you want to be successful, guess what? You have to be around other successful people, whether you're in corporate America or whether you are in, entrepreneur space. You want to always be around successful people and be in the rooms to where you need to be. And you can't always be, as she says, be around broke people all the time, because that is a mentality in itself. And to switch over into a millionaire mindset is a completely different mindset in a completely different world that we have to work on a regular and daily basis. So I highly recommend number 2, Rachel Rodgers, We Should All Be Millionaires. And none of these are in any particular order. So next up I have, and everyone's heard of Gary Vee, and this is actually one of the first books that I purchased. And this was called Crush It. Why now is the time to crush it, cash in on your passion. And with this book here on Crush It, it talks on how you have to build a personal brand, and not it being something that it's a nice to have, but it's actually nowadays a necessity. And how people buy from people who they create a bond with and who they know. So it always goes back to that know, like, and trust factor. This is what he talks about a little bit in this book, Crush It. He also goes over when it comes to, okay, now we have to pick a platform on social media. And a lot of people are saying, what platform are you going to use? And if you use it, now you have to dominate it because you have to know all the ins and outs. So for example, for me, my focus now will be my YouTube channel here and my podcast. So for me, I have to learn YouTube from the analytics and how to create thumbnails and how to create better quality videos and all the things like that, because you have to focus, and also showing up consistently on a regular basis to create a cadence for yourself. So Crush It is also a good one as well. And he has a second book too that I also have, which is called Crushing It. But I do highly recommend, if you're going to read anything, start here with Crush It. Next on the list, if you have ever watched $1 Million Listing New York and is a fan, then you know this person here. This is Ryan Serhant, and he has a book called Sell It Like Serhant. If you are not great at sales, I am not. This is a great book. He literally talks about how to sell more with ease and to become sort of like this selling machine. He talks about how he went to New York to be an actor, but ends up being like one of the top real estate agents who recently, over the course of a pandemic, opened up his own real estate firm and is now like a multi-million-dollar business. And he did all of this, and he had no sales experience, no nothing, but he learned it. He honed his skills. He goes through and talks about how you have to keep 3 or 4 balls in the air, because guess what? If one falls and goes by the wayside, you have 2 more that you can kind of count on when it comes to that. And just to flip through a little bit, he talks about, you know, how we sell is a skill that we have to learn if we are going to be on here conducting and having online businesses. We have to learn how to sell, and it is a skill that I am actually determined to learn moving into the next year so that I can become comfortable. Now, you would think with a background such as my own, having worked in retail banking for on and off for about 10 years, which means I have to sell products and services to clients, whether they're checking accounts or having them to refer them over to speak to an investment consultant, all of these things, you would think I would be pretty good at this. Not so much, because this is a different type of sell, because not only am I selling myself, I'm also having to sell a product or service that I have created, and having to show up and you to get to know, like, and trust me along the way, and just another way for me to help with articulating my values. So some of the topics he covers in here is saying yes equals selling more, because there is the power in the yes. It's an unexpected sales weapon, which is improv. One risk at a time, which is very important in how we hear people talk about we have to take all of these risks. We just have to do one at a time. So for example, for me, a risk I took, I moved to North Carolina 10 years ago. That was a huge risk. But now, guess what? I'm kind of settled and I'm kind of on stable ground now. So now my next risk is starting my whole image coaching business here online. This is a risk in itself. So being able to take this and see it all the way through and make the necessary changes and things like that, so that I can become a better salesperson and not make it seem so salesy, but just to make it having a simple conversation like we're having today. So the next book is Sell It Like Serhant. And another book he has that I also have is Big Money Energy, but start with this first and then read his other book, which was Big Money Energy. So another book that I have that it wasn't recommended, but on one of my trips to Barnes & Noble, I was walking through and this book caught my attention. I picked it up, bought it. I think I let it sit for a couple of weeks or maybe a couple months. I'm not for sure. And I ended up picking it up earlier this year, I think, and started reading it, and it was very helpful. And this is The Wealth Choice by Kimbro. And this is the success secrets of Black millionaires. And this was actually a book that I was not expecting to buy, but glad that I picked it up. You have stories from everybody from Bob Johnson to, I think Steve Harvey is in here. You have Magic Johnson is in here, and he has different laws of wealth. So a couple of examples is the second law of wealth that he has in here is resolve now that you will not be poor. And that is a decision that we have to make, is to not be poor, but to be better than, say, maybe our parents, or to create and build this life that we want to have for ourselves. Because the one thing that as we learn as we get older is that money gives us access and the resources that we need in order to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And then the first one, because I can say that as well, is the first law of wealth that he has is a wealth of knowledge, the most powerful economic weapon, is to learn about wealth. So through our entrepreneurial journeys, we hear a lot of people talk about generational wealth and building generational wealth. And it wasn't Kimbro, but another article that I read, and it says, before we can become wealthy, we have to become rich. So we have to become rich first, then we can talk about building wealth. And this definitely, with the second law of wealth, of making the decision not to be poor, and just hearing the stories of how some of these prominent Black millionaires, and some I had never even heard of, built their wealth and built their businesses just on a dream, on having their faith. He talks about your faith has to be bigger than your dream. And it is the one thing that I think that I found through this entire book, is that everybody had this faith, even when it didn't look like things were going to go their way. Their faith always took them through. So I highly recommend that you read The Wealth Choice, Successful Secrets of Black Millionaires, because it will definitely give you the encouragement and to see how others before us have made it, and how we can actually make it too, even if it's just right now, just a dream, by using our faith and making the decision that we no longer want to be poor. And last but not least, this was another book that I picked up on a whim as I was walking through Barnes & Noble, and I actually had this maybe about 2 years. And this is from Kubi Springer, and it is called I Am My Brand. And she literally teaches you and walks you through, because the book is actually a book that has, and I'll show you here, where you can actually write in here. And she gives you exercises that you can do to write in here about doing the work, as far as this one is about stakeholders grids, helping you build your target audience, like from what is their age group to what is their gender. She also talks about in here, your difference is your strength. So you finding through here, it's that your brand is what you choose to be: your name, colors, logo, typograph, style, tone of voice. And your brand image is the results, successful or unsuccessful, of that intent. So helping you walk through literally how to create and build a brand, how you want your voice to be, everything about colors, and how colors are actually important for your demographic of who you're looking for, what non-negotiables should be and should not be, and how to do it and how to push forward with that. Because I think a lot of times this is also hard, is creating a brand. And not only can you use this for your entrepreneur or your business brand, but also with building your personal brand as well. Because at the same time that you're building this brand, you're also building your personal brand as well. So this book here is called I Am My Brand by Kubi Springer. So I hope you enjoyed my video for today. And if any of these books are appealing, I will have them all, the lists, the names and the titles of the books, in the description box below for you to go ahead and take a look at. Reading is one of the things that I have learned is one of the keys to any successful entrepreneur. I don't care what it is that they do. They are always learning, always evolving, always taking their personal development seriously. And by doing so, one of the easiest ways to start is by reading, because a lot of the information that we look for, even though we're looking on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, LinkedIn, Google, podcast episodes, reading is key. Finding a book, whether you're buying the actual physical copies or whether you're buying the audio books or on a Kindle, reading is our biggest key to success. So let me know in the comments what you're reading or what books I should add to my list, because I already have a few I'm adding anyway. And I will probably talk about those sometime next year once I read them. But with all of that being said as well, if you've made it this far, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you for tuning in. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I will talk to you guys in my next Vlogmas video. Bye guys.